Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to the stream. It is October the 16th, momentous times we're going through. So, I have a couple of quick fire bits of news, predictions, and these regard Liz Truss, Tory leadership, and British news. Also, the Just Stop Oil activists and Ukraine. So, first up, it seems very likely that Liz Truss is going to go this week. So that's what's going on in the rumour mill. And I'd say, could it be this week? Well, we've got Saturn transiting square Venus and getting ever closer, and Uranus is squaring that position as well. So it seems more disruption in British politics. Okay, so it seems likely she could go. One reason she may not go is who'd want to take on this poison chalice? Who'd want to fill those shoes? It's a no-win situation for anyone who takes over, isn't it? Things are so dire. Who would take over? But anyhow, I'm coming to that. Just like to say, there does seem to have been some sort of stitch up because they made such a hooey about the fact that the tax cuts were going to be funded by borrowing, and the tax cuts were going to, end up costing 2 billion. But they were spending 2 billion on track and trace and testing and the whole shebang every month, and no one worried about it. So it seems to me an excuse in order to create a crisis for the pound to fall. Obviously, a lot of people will cash in when that happened. So the whole thing seems like a created situation. So Liz Truss was probably advised to do these tax cuts. They probably said, tax cuts, great way, stimulate the economy, great conservative policy. Let's do it, let's win our conservative base through the tax cuts. She didn't know she'd walked into a trap, and so had Kwasi Kwarteng. I think they've both been put up as lambs to the slaughter. I think Liz Truss was going to be such a convenient candidate to get rid of because they weren't going to lose anything. They've made fools of her and Kwarteng because they've gone along with this, and they should have just sat back and thought to themselves a little bit more about how that was going to be received. A lot of people say that their PR team didn't effectively communicate it with the market in time. The market got spooked, but I think the market's controlling this whole thing, and I'll tell you why. Kwasi Kwarteng was in Washington at a meeting of the IMF, where the Bank of England this week said they were going to stop the buying back of the gilts or the bonds that was propping up the pension funds. And they gave the pension funds until this Friday just gone to close their positions and sort out their balances, right? They did that knowing that that would create another panic, and knowing that Kwasi Kwarteng would probably get sacked because of it. So there was a little stitch-up going. They did it when he was out the country, and I think the Bank of England are behind what's going on. So whoever controls the Bank of England, the powers that should not be, are engineering situations to get Truss out, Kwarteng out, to create more chaos within conservative ranks, to bring on a general election which will usher in Keir Starmer of the Trilateral Commission, who is heavily connected to, not so much, well, he obviously is the World Economic Forum, but he's plugged into globalism. He's an arch Remainer. He is a key establishment figure. He's establishment through and through. He's far more likely to be authoritarian. He was very keen on the whole lockdown thing. He wants to go further, faster. It will, in effect, be the communist takeover that I talked of happening in the UK when I looked at the April Ingress. We are having some sort of coup, and the Bank of England is playing their role to sow chaos in the markets, to help usher out Liz and Kwasi Kwarteng. And the media, of course, are whipping up a fuss about nothing with the tax cuts to play their role in destabilising the Conservative government to bring about a Labour government which is much more in tune with what they would want. So while in Europe they're electing people like Giorgia Meloni, and I'm not saying he's perfect, I've done a stream on that, and other candidates, in the UK, we're kind of sliding the other way very, very quickly. George Galloway was saying it's kind of funny that Nigel Farage is so quiet. Surely, if any time was the time for him to be stepping up into politics to put pressure on the Conservatives to get back to their conservative roots and to really galvanise the right wing of the Conservative Party, and he's just nowhere to be seen. It's really odd. It's like everyone's been bought off, paid off. It's a fait accompli. So who will be the new Prime Minister? Is it going to be Rishi Sunak, or is it going to be Ben Wallace? Now, as you know, Ben Wallace was the former Defence Secretary under Boris, who was caught in that sting with the Russian pranksters making a fake call, pretending to be Zelensky's deputy, and he's totally caught out on that one. The guy is thoroughly incompetent, but Yeah, the interesting thing is Ben Wallace and Rishi Sunak, they're both Taurus, right? And Ben Wallace is 15th of May 1970 and Rishi Sunak is 12 May 1980. So I believe it's going to be Ben Wallace, and I think the reason it is Rishi's too smart to take this on, right? He'll stay in the background, let the chips fall where it may, and maybe make an entry later. If he does take this up, I'd be very surprised because whoever comes in is not going to last. So I say it's going to be Ben Wallace, and then we'll have the fall of the Conservative government in January. By the way the planets look, because there's a lot happening in January. There's an awful lot happening in Ben Wallace's chart in January. So I think it'll probably be Ben Wallace. Interesting as well, I just wanted to talk about, apparently all the countries that are allied with Russia are evacuating their embassies in Kiev, right? So does this mean we're going to have some more dramatic events in Ukraine this week? I think so. And if you remember, I made a prediction that at the October eclipse, which was conjunct Venus in sort of 5 degrees, we would see some dramatic events in Ukraine. So watch out for the dates around the 25th. The last time we had this eclipse conjunct Venus in such a tight conjunction was in November 1938, right? So that was obviously 6 months before World War II. And someone said, oh, well, World War II only started the following year. Yeah, but eclipses usually can take a long time to feed through, although this time maybe not, because things are quite hot as it is. Okay. Also wanted to just say Turkey, the Turk Stream pipeline, there was an attempt to blow it up on Russian soil. People have been arrested. Now, is Erdogan going to be as passive as Schulz in Germany and just take it and shut up about it? No, I don't think so, because Erdogan's quite close to Russia. Erdogan in Turkey are key in the whole kind of chain of gold, because although the gold isn't mined in Turkey, it's processed in Turkey, so it makes them a very important country in terms of economically with Russia and China. I think it won't be too long before a big country like Turkey turns its back on NATO. Turkey's going to have to jump one side or the other, and they're going to jump the Russian side, and this will destabilize NATO. And I think we could see maybe not the end of NATO, but certainly a big change in terms of NATO. Now, that's from the chart as well, because I've been looking at the NATO chart from 1949. Huge amount happening in the NATO chart. This is going to push it to breaking point, and you'll see countries splitting off now. You're also going to see France possibly splitting off. Emmanuel Macron said this week if Russia does do a nuclear strike, he's not retaliating with nuclear. So Macron is stepping away from it. Yes, he's got enough instability in the country as it is. He doesn't really control the legislature anymore. He's in a weak position. Lots of strikes going on at the oil refineries, which is why there are these big queues for petrol in France, etc. But Macron has got very strong back diplomatic channels to Moscow. There's a lot of communication between France and Moscow. France might be the first one to say, dropping out, nothing to do with NATO, and Italy will probably be the second, because they also have very strong back channels to Russia, and so do Greece. So any of those three countries could totally drop out of NATO, and it's probably unlikely Sweden and that even join either. So that covers the whole NATO thing and all of that. The Turk Stream, yeah, Erdogan, I think it's not going to be long before there's trouble in the Bosporus Straits, because as Russia does have designs on taking Odessa and the rest of the south coast or the Black Sea coast, which is going to mean that the West are going to want to block the Bosphorus Straits to irritate Russian ships going in and out, and that's going to draw in Turkey, and Turkey are maybe going to say no. So I would like to talk a little bit, but so I think, look, it's going to be Ben Wallace. I initially thought, it's going to be Hunt, but no. It doesn't seem like it's going to be Hunt. He's Scorpio, by the way, but I don't think it's going to be him. The most likely is Ben Wallace, but I wouldn't totally rule out Sunak, but I think he's too smart to take this on. He's going to let a lot of things fail before he does. This story about the Just Stop Oil activists who threw tomato soup on Van Gogh's 76 million pound sunflowers. Now, I don't know a lot about art, but even I've heard about the sunflowers, right? This painting must have already been covered with glass, or they put a fake there. Because, if you see the picture of these people, the security at the art gallery, I could have taken one look at them and no, they've got pink hair and they've got T-shirts that say Stop Oil or something. Obviously, they were going in there to vandalize. They should have been stopped. But I think they get a call. They're going to be these vandals. There'll be some media there to take photographs of them. Just put up a fake Van Gogh and let them do what they want and just let them get away with it. Don't bother them. It's a stunt. So anyway, but we don't know that. Maybe they did do a lot more damage. But at the same time, this is thoroughly unacceptable behavior, you know. And what I think it is, it's state-sponsored cultural terrorism. They're taking a hands-off approach to this. Now, if you look back in China at Mao Zedong and the Cultural Revolution, they had the youth who formed part of, I think it was called the Red Guards, and maybe young people, like these oil activists. And they were charged with getting rid of the four olds: old culture, old beliefs, old traditions, old, I don't know, heritage, whatever. This is what's happening again. This is an attempt, it's an attack on Christian European culture. You will not find these activists attacking anything that is more like ethnic or modern art or anything like that. They're going for things that symbolize traditional European culture and heritage. So this is part of a cultural Maoist revolution. It's not anything to do with activism against oil. And the other thing that's very upsetting, after seeing how even elderly people who were peacefully protesting with signs, not causing any criminal damage, not disturbing the peace at all, were manhandled by police, thrown in the back of a van. In one case, there was an MP standing right there saying, what the hell is going on, as a 70-year-old frail woman was bundled off by the police. And yet the police are looked at talking, oh, hello, dear, you know, how can we help you? How could we possibly make your protest easier? It's utter nonsense. You can tell they're stand-down orders. We know that these are state-sanctioned, state-sponsored, corporate-sponsored protesters that are being given a free ride, will not face any comebacks. I mean, if they do get sued, it'll just be a case of, oh, we'll just pay them off by you know, or they actors or whatever. But you know, it makes me very, very annoyed. I don't know how people don't see through this. It's got nothing to do with oil. These are all middle-class European people who are, in the case of pouring milk, taking good milk and tossing it around supermarkets to make a point when people are battling with the cost of living to even buy that milk. It's disgusting. These are probably the offspring of very wealthy people who've led an incredibly sheltered life and who are doing this as some sort of game. They think it's a game. They don't know what they're doing. And they're probably being rewarded with it or becoming social media stars, they think. I don't know. But it's disgusting, and it's not coming from the more underprivileged sectors of society or the people who are struggling or disadvantaged. It's not their children doing this. Yeah. So this I had on my getter about the Turk Stream pipeline. What was this? This is actually the chart for NATO. So you can see there's a huge amount of planets here, all in Aries in the 7th house, which is why NATO is so aggressive and warlike and always looking to do regime change, like in Serbia and whatever. And a lot of these planets are now conjuncting by solar arc Uranus and Moon up in the 10th here. So that's why I think this is going to be a dramatic time for NATO. Plus you've got Jupiter here indicating that expansionism, but Moon, Uranus, it's going to go all wrong for them. They're not going to have the support, and I think it's inevitably going to break up. But I didn't actually intend to talk about that chart too long. There was oh yes, you can see what that's all about. I'm just seeing if there was any more. Oh, that's huge crowds, guys, meeting the most popular president ever, because, you know, people just love him. He's doing such a great job as well. You know, so eloquent. Yes, market volatility, bank straight. Yeah, the banks are pushing this whole thing. They wanted that government gone. I was going to say, I laugh about the Zoë app. Apparently, this is where they get this. Is your area a COVID hotspot? It's about people using this stupid app. Now, you know, people were saying, oh, well, the VAERS, it's all anecdotal. It's unsubstantiated. It hasn't been medically checked. Ditto Zoë app. Just a lot of people plugging in every time they get a sniffle or a cold. It's also unsubstantiated. Nothing's being checked. Just plugging in details. Probably if Elon Musk had to investigate Zoe, he'd find it's all bots as well and fake accounts who are just putting in details. Oh, I'm sick, I've got a cold, it's definitely COVID. Oh, I've had a positive test. And then they use the Zoe app to fuel fear and to push whatever. So there you go. I'm not sure. Knives out in the Tory party. Absolutely, we've done all that. I don't know if there was anything else on here. Jeremy Hunt, yeah, I know. Do you ever remember what he was saying? Let's just remind ourselves of what he was saying. Here, hold on. Okay, guys, I think I'm going to close that off. I don't know if you can actually hear it, but yeah. But Jeremy Hunt, who's obviously very influenced possibly by China, and he was saying what a great thing the zero COVID strategy is in China, and we should be trying for a zero COVID strategy in the same way China are doing it. So, this guy's terrifying. So I hope it's not going to be him. Anyway, I've raced through all that stuff. I've given you an enormous amount of content in a short time. I hope you liked it. Let's see what happens with Liz Truss this week. I can see logically why she's going to go really soon. It seems politically astute to say she's going to go really soon, but maybe it'll just be a little bit longer, maybe before Guy Fawkes, but the next person is going to fail again because the Bank of England and the media they've got their agenda now. Whoever comes in, they're just going to keep throwing crisis or after crisis at them, or engineering a crisis or creating a fake crisis until they are gone. Thanks, guys. Hope you enjoyed that.